next type of a loop, which is this type of loop that quite often never ends if you write the code wrongly, the while loop. So a while loop is checking for some condition. For example, if A is greater than B, it's going to print something. Of course, in this case, the condition that we used here, we said that A is greater than B, but it's obviously not going to compile well because it doesn't know what A and B are. But I reminded you earlier that we wanted some more descriptive names of the variables. So in this case, if we consider some kind of a game, for example, if I don't know, let's say some points are greater than the winning score, meaning that if you get the winning score, then it will end the whole loop. So in that case, after the loop ends, one can write, for example, you win. And over here, we're just gonna write, for now, not enough points to win.
Why we write while, not if?
Because this is a loop. The loop is also having a condition. Okay. This loop is like this type of an infinite loop if the conditions are not met. But first, whatever we're putting in this condition, we need to define it. Otherwise, it's not going to work well for us. So the winning score, let's say, is 10 points. And the points we have at the start of most games, it is 0. So if we launch the code like this, well, it's never gonna print you win, because inside the loop, there needs to be a mechanism to make this thing possible. And if we type that 0 is greater than 10, then, okay, I think I put it wrong way. If the points, as long as the points are smaller than 10, it's going to repeat the loop. But if we don't add the points anywhere inside, then it's never going to happen. If we launch the code, that's what we're going to get. We're going to get a crashed program, basically. It's going to print it forever. If you guys remember, to break this code, go click somewhere on the terminal and press Ctrl+C. And this is called the keyboard interrupt. It breaks this infinite loops. Everybody going to get them eventually if they code long enough. It's just hard to be, make 0 errors in this type of environment when every year there's some new things, new libraries. And well, it is tough anyway, because sometimes the things get so complicated that in the middle of doing something, you already forget what it was about. So anyway, the important part about this loop, this will repeat. Will repeat until the condition is no longer true. And over here, what we can do For example, the player did something good, and let's just add 1 point for each iteration. And in the meantime, also, we can write your score. So we can see how it goes. So as you can see, not enough points to win, but we got first point in the first iteration. And so on until it does the iteration for the last time. Points from the previous iteration are equal 9. So it's comparing, not enough points to win. And here it's adding to 9, this +1. So now the score is 10 already. So then it checks, goes back to do the iteration again. And it's checking that the points are not smaller than 10, they are exactly 10. So it doesn't repeat this loop. And then finally, this print that is outside the loop, as you can say by different indentations, it's on the same level as the while is. So that meaning once the while loop is finished, it is going to print this. And that's when the player eventually wins. Obviously, with a game, there should be some more things. I mean, not many games give points for doing nothing, right? But that's what we're gonna eventually do, to do some more interesting stuff. But for now, this kinda shows us how it works. And now the important thing about conditions, because there is also a possibility that if the points are equal, greater, smaller, or equal, meaning if we put this equation sign here, this loop will be launched 1 more time, meaning it will end on the score equal 11. So one needs to take into account, it's quite important that the loops perform exactly the number of times you want to perform it. And quite often it's gonna perform 1 times not enough or 1 times too many times. So one needs to always check the conditions for this one that is missing quite often in the code. So it is quite important to check. I'll just type it here. Check the thoroughly. Yeah, I hope it still runs. Yes, because sometimes when I put comments inside this loop, it might give some errors. So better be careful where you put comments. But this one is okay. Will it work now? Yeah, it works. Good. And that's the winning condition. I think for while loop, there's in some programming languages do something while it's a bit of a combination of the while loop. But I think with this one, I think this one works enough. It doesn't matter to learn other versions. So we can check if you guys are more interested in the different type of loops. Yeah, so over here in this day 10 of the loops in the 30 days of Python by Asta Benech on GitHub, you get more explanation about different type of loops, and you guys gonna figure out which one works for you the best. I think the one that we checked is just the most basic version, and there's no point of over complicating stuff. This should work good enough for 90% of the cases. So in case you need some more, go ahead, check the resources online for different type of ways you can do. For example, here we can have an else. I guess you can do an else condition if the count is, I guess this launches if the while loop never actually manages to do a single iteration. Someone can print here points greater than win score to begin with. So if, for example, I change here to 110 points, then obviously we get this else condition, points greater than the winning score to begin with. But if we check it back, it seems like when the loop is ended, it will launch else anyway. But I guess it might be useful. So points greater than winning score. That's good enough. So else is launched when this loop is already done with. So I don't find much significance in using it. I guess I will write here optional. I never used a while loop with an else condition to it. But you can, so why not? It's easier just to type something behind. So it gets launched anyway, right? Okay. So since we did that, so how about we make an exercise on the while loops? It's like for loops. One can, well, do different things with the loop, but mostly mathematical conditions should be good enough. Or if one wants, if you guys remember from last week, there was this input command. You can make the user retype like what you are thinking and make the condition that as long as they are not thinking about Python, the loop never going to stop. So if you want to make something like that, we can copy this whole code. Input. What are you thinking about? And we're gonna call it the hot is equal to input. And then the user is going to be asked about some input. In terminal, user will be asked to something. And we can type. So as long as the tot is not equal to Python with a capital letter. Later on, we will learn different tools for operating strings because we can forcefully convert all the letters to small ones and or to the capital letters. It's fine. Yes, and there we have it. And we can print at the end. Finally. So we launch this code. What are you thinking about? I think about weather. Wrong. What am I thinking about now? Python. Yes.